Hello science fans! Welcome back to Science Fun with Austin. Today we're going to continue our series of product reviews and try and take a look at a computer science related topic. We're going to see if the Retron 5 actually performs like it's supposed to. The Retron 5 is an Android machine with cartridge slots and controller ports for some retro systems. It also has an SD port and HDMI output, and it purports to be able to convert your Super Nintendo, Nintendo, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Famicom, Super Famicom, and Mega Drive, if you found those somewhere, cartridges to play in 720p output. So if you have fond memories of retro gaming instead of, friends or something, check this out. One minor trick if you actually buy a Retron. It's not broken, you just have to hold the power button down for about 8 seconds for some reason to start it up. This is what you get if you put the original Game Boy Tetris in, which is clearly not Tetris. Alright, it looks like we're having a little better luck with Tetris now. Had to resort to the universal standby of blowing in it. It looks like you get a solid black and white here. I bet this is what they're still playing in Russia. However, it does look like we're having a little better luck with the Game Boy Color game here. This is Rampage World Tour. And after about 18 intro screens, perhaps we can get to the game. Oh, who hasn't had a science experiment go like this? Well, this is marginally playable, but I don't really think it's the Retron's fault that a Game Boy Color game doesn't have a whole lot of information to fill an HD display with. Alright, so it seems like it does pretty well with the Game Boy games. Let's try the regular Nintendo. The slots are a little tight, so you want to be careful putting the cartridge in. Let's take a look at some of the settings here. I'm not stretching the aspect ratio. Got the annoying pinging on. And it has an automatic region select, so supposedly even the PAL cartridges should work here. And let's fetch the fabulous flagon of Fent Whistle, or whatever it is here. Dragon Warrior 4. Well, good job. I'm pretty sure someone's going to pass through that. Alright, so far the old Nintendo seems to be working pretty well. Let's give another card a shot here. Alright, let's give kind of a classic a shot here. I think the Retron is doing a nice job of making the text readable on an HD TV. That can be kind of hard if you just hook up an original system. And the sound sounds pretty accurate too. I haven't heard any of the games with any real audio glitches, which is pretty good. It's part of the appeal to these. So we're pretty much through the first level here, and Double Dragon 2 is working pretty well. There's been a little bit of glitching at the edge of the screen, but frankly the original game wasn't completely glitch-free. We'll give the Genesis cart a try. One thing I noticed is the Genesis cart is a really tight fit, so you want to be careful with it. And we'll try Streets of Rage, which for anyone in Williston is pretty much what it's like going outside. And kind of the cool thing is, you can play your Genesis game with a Super Nintendo controller if you don't happen to have a Genesis pad handy. I haven't actually mapped the controllers, so let's see what we get here. Okay. A drops my napalm bomb that I totally wasted. X is jump. And B is attack. So far the old Genesis emulation seems to be going pretty well. Right, we'll give the Super Nintendo a shot. we're actually going to put it through its paces a little bit. Doom uses the Super FX2 chip, which isn't terribly common, but it looks and sounds about as good as you can really expect a Super Nintendo version of Doom to do. Alright, so it seems to handle a Super FX2 chip without any trouble. Let's try another one that has a little bit of a reputation for causing problems. Right, here's Mega Man X. The cheats can be loaded onto the SD card, and basically gives you every Game Genie code for every game, supposedly. They release updates pretty often. So kind of a cool thing is you can enable all the cheats on the fly. Let's try one more. Let's give ourselves a little bit of a life power-up and see what happens. So you can switch the cheats on and off in the middle of some games, which is pretty cool. Alright, now we're really going to push this thing. This game is called MiG-29 Soviet Fighter. It has a switch on it and is conspicuously lacking the Nintendo seal of quality. It may well have come from the actual Soviet Union. Let's see if the Retron can handle this. Second time is the charm. We are playing MiG-29 Soviet Fighter. Alright. Well, I'll be. If the Retron can play that, it can play just about anything. One cool thing about this console is it does seem to handle switching between controllers pretty effortlessly. Here we've got the standard Super Nintendo controller to play the old Game Boy Advance game. You can switch pretty easily to a regular Nintendo controller. You don't have to change anything. And right on the fly you can go back to, you can use the Hyperkin controller, which has the advantage of being wireless. I think it kind of defeats the point of this sort of system, but the Hyperkin actually isn't a bad controller. So to answer our initial question today, can you make an Android-powered system running an emulator, or a series of emulators you coded, work effectively? The answer is pretty clearly yes. The Retron 5 does more or less everything it's supposed to. And even a little more than you can really expect. It can run some pretty shady cards and still function. So I guess the moral of the story is if you know about coding and you're good with the soldering iron and you know what an Intellivision is, you should give me a call because I'll buy something from you. So the second question would be whether or not you should buy it. The one downside to it is that it doesn't actually offer video recording. You can take screenshots, but you can't record gameplay videos. But it does a fine job of playing the cartridges. So if you have original cartridges and controllers and not a girlfriend, I would totally recommend buying the Retron 5. Till next time, have fun, science fans!